Hey YouTube! So I am kicking off my depth year for 2020. As I've explained on this channel before, I decided in 2019, the beginning of the year, as everyone was doing their depth year videos, that the idea was interesting, but it felt like 2019 was more of a breadth year for me, and I wanted to take the time to figure out what my depth year would look like, and so wait a year to do it, and also to absorb some of the lessons of folks who are doing a 2019 depth year. So I did that. Here we are, and I wanted to introduce my depth year, some of the sort of guidelines that I'm giving myself, what I've decided to do with it, and then I can refer back to this later in the year when I give updates on how it's going. So I'm going to be referring to my computer a lot because I have this list. So basically, I've come up with about a page of guidelines, and it's not to do, and then we'll get into the things that I do want to do, or like the specific things I want to focus on by clearing out some of the don'ts. So things I'm going to try not to do. Not purchasing books or zines or comics unless it's a particularly limited kind of thing. So something that I won't be able to get in the future. Things like, like indie comics that have a really limited run, or zines. For the most part, not going to purchase any of those. I've got plenty. No new tarot decks unless, so a few things for tarot. It needs to be on my priority future or higher category. So I have, as you know if you're familiar with this channel, I have a whole spreadsheet about tarot, and I categorize decks based on how much I want them. So it needs to be at least priority future is like the second to, no, it's the third. There's definitely one by ASAP, definitely want priority future. So it has to be in the top 3 categories, and limited in the sense that I have a suspicion it's going to sell out or it's not going to be available, which is kind of hard to know, but as best as I can tell, like something that I'm afraid will not be available if I don't get it. Or I'm willing to trade if it's that high and it's not limited, or if it's, I guess, limited but not that high up, then I can trade a deck. With courses, so I decided to make a little exception for Lindsay Mack's courses because I basically want everything she puts out and I know I'm going to buy it. So I decided that's okay because I know the content is super valuable and that it's super perennial and I can use it at any time. I'm going to max out though at 2 courses that aren't Lindsay's. So I can purchase 2 courses of whatever course about whatever. But nothing that's going to be available after this year. So only like limited offerings. And no doing 2 things that are concurrent and live because I learned my lesson with that. So I can't focus on 2 courses at once. If it's not self-directed and self-paced, then I don't want to do 2 at the same time. Next, no new hobby supplies, no new candles, no new bath stuff, no new witchy stuff, unless I'm completely out of that category. So in other words, if I have no candles, I can buy some more candles. If I have no like bath thingies, salt, soaks, whatever, I can buy new, but I have to go through the category before I buy new. This is one thing that I like about depth year is focusing on what you already have, and I have that stuff. So no new clothing or accessories unless I am really in love with it. It fits into my current wardrobe, and it's super limited. It's not something I can just buy in a year. No new game purchases, board games, unless it is what I called Fog of Love level awesome. So there's this game called Fog of Love that I really love. So it has to be like super niche and cool, and it's limited. I don't think I'm going to be able to get it in the future. So it's like a really cool indie game that speaks to my soul. I can buy it, but otherwise no board games. No challenges or free programs or anything like that that's just like a free thing you can do, unless it really fits in with what I'm currently focusing on with my depth year. So like if a challenge pops up that is like really related to my current tarot practice, I might do it, but otherwise trying to avoid those. No language study outside of Spanish. I am always attracted by shiny new languages, but I'm focusing on Spanish for this year, so I'm going to stay there. No new albums or music discovery unless a current favorite artist releases something new. I'm going to try to stick to like listening to the music I already have identified as liking. No new hobbies or social practices. No going to conferences or events or traveling to a new place unless it is for work, with two exceptions. One is Northwest Tarot Symposium, because I really wanted to do it. I decided I'm going to do it, so I can't wait to see you there. And I get the feeling that my Metamor is scheming something. So if they decide to scheme a trip for us, for my girlfriend and Metamor and I, then I'm going to go. But otherwise, I'm going to try to stick to travel to places I've already been. No new services or coaches or like anything like that, but new tarot readers are okay. Every other thing, try not to do more of that. Oh, and a therapist would be fine, because I need a therapist right now, honestly. No browsing Kickstarter or Etsy or Amazon or Facebook groups for tarot stuff, or looking for stuff on my shopping wish list, unless I'm looking for something very specific. So in other words, when I'm bored, I often will just go to Etsy and be like, what's on Etsy? Or, go to like Kickstarter and be like, what tarot decks exist? Like, no. If it is that important, I will probably find out about it through another means, and then I can look for the specific thing. But no like random shopping site browsing. Also no looking at indie deck review, because there's just so much on there. On Instagram. No new subscription services. No adding things to my Netflix queue unless it's something that's like really, really amazing. Oh, same for Disney Plus. Unless it's really, really like up my alley. No Tiny Desk. So I currently watch all the Tiny Desk concerts. I'm going to stop doing that for a year. I can always catch up next year, but that goes in with music discovery. No reading fanfic I haven't already bookmarked, because I have a bunch of bookmarks. If I want to read fanfiction, I should read the bookmarks. Think carefully before subscribing to any new YouTube channels, Instagram, Facebook groups, podcasts, newsletters, webcomics, or blogs. So basically adding anything to those, I've gone through them during my sabbatical and like cleared it out. So it's got to be like, I really want to add it. Alright, so that's the don'ts. And then the do's, which I think really should be the focus of the depth here, but I think it's often that like the don'ts end up being like the hard thing to do, so they take up a lot of mental space, but I think they are a tool to get to what can we focus on in depth. So here's what I want to focus on. It's a lot. It's way more than a year's worth of stuff, but there you go. As somebody who has ADHD, I really still need a menu of things to do. So if I were to pick like 5 things to focus on, it would not work. So for me, I want to have a menu, but it's a limited menu. So one, I do want to set specific depth goals, or not even goals, but like each month I want to check in and just like put some intentional time to like, what am I focusing on this month? I want to read things I already own. So I have a ton of zines, books, I have saved articles, ebooks on my computer that I haven't read. So focusing on only reading things I already own. Focusing on also specifically a few authors that I really want to read like multiple things of, trying to do some of that. Reading things in my Evernote that I've marked as to read that just sit there forever. Reading this ridiculous number of bitch magazines. So on my tarot shelf, like below all the tarot stuff on the bottom, I have probably 5 years, maybe 6 of bitch magazine. Fortunately, it's quarterly, so it's not that many, but still, it's like probably 30 or 40 magazines. I've literally never read one. I've subscribed to it for years. I know it's good, but I've never read it, so I want to read it. Spend time with the tarot decks that I have. I would like to try to, I'm not sure exactly how I will do this, but I would like to maybe do some like spending some time with a different deck each month. We'll see how that works for me. I'm not totally sure, but I would like to put some focus time into like studying a specific deck. Work work on tarot projects that I've already come up with. So I have an ebook idea that may, who knows when it'll actually manifest, but it's okay to work on that, and it's okay to work on the Oracle deck, but that's, don't come up with new stuff. Come up with fun ways to style the clothes I already own. I have so many accessories that I never wear, so I want to try to get back into like wearing jewelry, and remind myself that that's an option. Try to host some board game parties so that I can play games that I own already, and also just play the games. I have a lot of games actually that you can play solo, so go ahead and play those. Or invite a specific person over specifically to play a 2-player game. On the computer, play The Sims 4, Lord of the Rings Online, other games that I already own and like and want to play. Continue having a regular Spanish practice. I'm doing that pretty intensely during my sabbatical, and like I've gotten to a fairly conversational fluency, but then like still have maybe a weekly spending some time studying Spanish. Make some new playlists with the albums that I've already saved, and listen to some of my favorite albums more. So I've just noticed that I don't listen to all the amazing music I have that I love. I just don't do that anymore, which is weird. So the playlist thing is like, I have some playlists, but I don't have that many, and so I'm thinking, oh, you know what I should do is like listen to an album, and then if I have like 10 or 15 playlists that I could start, like cheery music, working music, whatever, then as I listen to an album, be like, oh, this would go really well on this playlist, and do that a little bit. Consider returning to some of my favorite places. So like maybe I have a friend in St. Louis I might want to go back to this year. Maybe I'll do a Europe trip. I'm always kind of like having my eye on international flight prices, and like if something really drops, I might go for it. Try to practice piano regularly. I've been having trouble with that, but I still want to do it. Establish a movement practice. Very, very challenging. Haven't done it. Really want to do it. Shouldn't say need, but like I think it would be really good for my energy. Watch what is already in my Netflix queue. Catch up on webcomics that I already have in my Comic Rocket. Read Marvel comics. I have this whole like reading order, and I've got plans for it, and I have a Marvel Unlimited subscription. Engage in specific, focused social media communities and deepen relationships. So, for example, TarotTube would be an example of that. But try to be active in like a few communities that I can keep up with, and deepen some of the relationships I've already established, and deepen my existing in-person relationships. So that's my whole list. That was like 15 minutes of me rambling, but that establishes, so you know, what I'm trying to do this year, and we'll see how it goes. I would love to, if you feel free to leave me a link in the comments if you have a similar video about your upcoming death year, and we'll cheer each other on, and I'll be sure to record some updates, so don't forget to subscribe if you're interested in those.